The billionaire at table 12 just whispered my name. But I'd never told him what it was. 3 months I'd been serving Victor Sterling his coffee. 3 months of perfect silence. Tonight, everything changed. I was rushing between tables at Le Bernardin when disaster struck. My grandmother's locket, the only thing I had from my past, caught on his coffee cup as I refilled it. The ancient chain snapped with a sharp crack. The sound made everyone look. The locket hit the marble floor and burst open, revealing the tiny photograph inside. I dropped to my knees immediately, my face burning with humiliation. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Sterling. I'm so sorry." But when I looked up, Victor Sterling wasn't angry. He was frozen. Staring at my broken locket like it contained nuclear secrets. His hands were shaking. "Where?" His voice cracked. "Where did you get this?" Something in his tone made my stomach drop. "It belonged to my grandmother," I whispered, reaching for the locket. "She died when I was 3. He pulled it away from my fingers. Victor Sterling, one of the most powerful men alive, was clutching my cheap locket like it was the most precious thing on earth. His face had gone completely white. "Stand up," he said quietly. I scrambled to my feet, terrified I was about to be fired. But when I stood, he wasn't looking at the locket anymore. He was staring directly at me. "What's your full name?" he asked. "Sarah Mitchell, sir." "Your birth name?" My throat went dry. I don't know, sir. I'm adopted. I don't remember anything before I was 3. That's when something impossible happened. Tears started streaming down Victor Sterling's face. This billionaire, this man who controlled companies and governments, was crying in the middle of a crowded restaurant. "Turn your head to the left," he whispered. "Sir. Please. Turn your head to the left." I did, confused and terrified. He studied my profile like he was memorizing every detail. "The scar," he breathed. "Behind your left ear. From when you fell off the swing." My hand flew to the tiny scar I'd had my entire life. The one I'd assumed came from some childhood accident I couldn't remember. How could he possibly know about that? "You have your mother's eyes," he said, his voice breaking. "And her stubborn chin. And this." He held up the locket, his hands trembling violently. "I gave this to you for your 3rd birthday. October 15th. You were wearing a yellow dress with sunflowers on it." The world stopped spinning. October 15th was my birthday. I had no memory of yellow dresses or sunflowers, but somehow this stranger knew the exact date I was born. "Who are you?" I whispered. Other customers were starting to stare. Servers were hovering nearby, unsure whether to intervene. But Victor Sterling only had eyes for me. "I've been searching for you for 25 years, he said. 25 years. I was 28. The math was perfect. The math was terrifying. "My name is Victor Sterling," he said, standing slowly. "And 25 years ago, my 3-year-old daughter Emma disappeared from our home in Connecticut." The locket fell from his hands and clattered to the floor. "The police said she was kidnapped. They never found her body. They never found any trace of her at all." My knees started shaking. "I hired private investigators. I never stopped looking. I never stopped hoping." He stepped closer to me. "You have a birthmark on your right shoulder. Shaped like a crescent moon." "I do have that birthmark. I've had it my entire life." "You're left-handed, but you eat with your right hand because someone taught you it was proper." That was true too. "And when you were little," his voice dropped to a whisper, "you used to have nightmares about a woman with red hair who smelled like cigarettes. The air left my lungs. I'd had those nightmares my entire childhood. Social workers always said they were just anxiety dreams from being in foster care. But this man knew about them. This complete stranger knew my deepest, most secret fears. "Please," I whispered. "Please tell me who you are." Victor Sterling looked me directly in the eyes. "Sarah," he said, and the way he said my name sounded like a prayer. "I'm your father." The restaurant tilted sideways. And my entire life shattered along with it that I could not breathe. The words, "I am your father," kept echoing in my head like gunshots. But they made no sense. Victor Sterling stood in front of me, this powerful billionaire with tears streaming down his face, claiming to be the parent I had never known. Other customers were staring now. Their expensive dinners were forgotten as they watched the drama unfolding at table 12. The manager was walking toward us, clearly concerned about the scene we were causing. But I could not move. I could not think. I could barely stand. "That is impossible," I whispered. "My parents died in a car accident." "That is what they told me." Victor's eyes never left my face. "Who told you that?" "The social workers. The foster families. Everyone." I was backing away from him now, my hands shaking as badly as his were. "You are wrong. You have to be wrong." "Sarah," he said gently, like he was talking to a frightened animal. "Emma. Do you remember anything from before you were 3? Anything at all?" The question hit me like a slap. Because the truth was, I did not remember anything. Not a single memory from my early childhood. The doctors had said it was normal for trauma victims. Sometimes the mind blocks out painful experiences. "I do not remember anything," I admitted. "But that does not mean you are my father. That does not mean anything." Victor reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. His fingers were trembling as he scrolled through what looked like hundreds of photographs. "Look at this," he said, holding the screen toward me. The photo showed a little girl with blonde hair and green eyes. She was wearing a yellow dress covered in sunflowers. She was sitting on a swing, laughing at whoever was taking the picture. She looked exactly like me. "This was taken the morning you disappeared," Victor said, his voice breaking. "October 14, 2001. You were 3 years and 11 months old. You had just learned to tie your shoes." I stared at the photograph. The little girl's face was my face, just younger. The eyes, the nose, the shape of her mouth. Everything was identical. But it still could not be real. "Anyone could have a photo," I said desperately. "You could have found this anywhere." Victor scrolled to the next picture. The same little girl, but this time she was opening a small jewelry box. Inside the box was my locket. The exact same locket that had fallen and broken just minutes ago. "I bought that for you at a little jewelry store in Greenwich," he said. "It cost me $43.97. I saved the receipt for your baby book." My legs gave out. I would have hit the floor if the manager had not caught my arm. "Miss Mitchell, are you all right?" the manager asked. "She is my daughter," Victor said before I could answer. "And she needs to sit down." The manager looked confused but guided me to a chair at an empty table. Victor sat across from me, his phone still in his hand. "Tell me about the nightmares," he said quietly. My throat felt like sandpaper. "What nightmares?" "The ones about the woman with red hair who smelled like cigarettes." I felt like I was drowning. Because he was right. I had had those dreams my entire childhood. Always the same woman, always the same terrifying smell of tobacco and something else I could never identify. "How could you possibly know about that?" "Because that woman was my ex-wife," Victor said. "Your mother. She took you from me during our custody battle and then disappeared. She told everyone you were dead, but I never believed it. I could not believe it." "That is insane," I whispered. "People do not just fake their children's deaths." "She did." Victor's voice turned hard. "Catherine was brilliant and cruel and completely insane when she was angry. And she was very, very angry when the divorce judge said I should have joint custody. He scrolled to another photo. This one showed a woman with flame-red hair holding the same little girl. The woman was beautiful, but there was something cold about her eyes. Something that made my skin crawl even in a photograph. Do you recognize her? I did. God help me, I did. She was the woman from my nightmares. The one who had haunted my sleep for 25 years. She cannot be my mother, I said, but even as I said it, I knew it was true. She is. And she stole you from me and convinced the world you were dead. Victor's voice was getting stronger now, more certain. But you are not dead, Emma. You are sitting right here in front of me, alive and beautiful and exactly who I always hoped you would become. 3 days later, I still could not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Victor's face when he opened that locket. I heard him whisper, Emma, like a prayer he had been saying for 25 years. I had taken time off work, claiming I was sick. Which was not entirely a lie. The truth was making me physically ill. Victor had given me his private number and begged me to call when I was ready to talk. But I was not ready for anything. How do you process learning that your entire life has been built on lies? That your mother faked your death and stole you from your father? That you are not Sarah Mitchell, struggling waitress, but Emma Sterling, heir to a billion-dollar fortune? My small apartment felt like a prison. Every object reminded me of the life I thought I knew. The thrift store furniture. The collection of library books. The photos of foster families who had taken me in temporarily before passing me along to someone else. All of it suddenly seemed like evidence of a crime I did not understand. When my phone finally rang, I jumped so hard I knocked over my coffee cup. Victor's name flashed on the screen. Hello. My voice came out as a whisper. Sarah. Emma. God, I do not even know what to call you. He sounded exhausted. I have been going insane waiting for you to call. How are you doing? I do not know, I said honestly. I cannot eat. I cannot sleep. I keep thinking this is some elaborate con game. I understand. I have hired investigators to find proof. Real proof that you can see and touch. His voice grew stronger. Can we meet? I have things to show you that might help. 2 hours later, I was sitting in the lobby of the most expensive hotel in the city. I felt completely out of place in my discount store clothes. Victor appeared with a leather briefcase that looked like it cost more than my monthly rent. He sat across from me and placed the briefcase on the coffee table between us. I have spent the last 3 days having my team gather everything they could find about Catherine's disappearance with you. And about your life in the foster system. He opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. This is going to be difficult to hear. The first document was a police report from October 15, 2001. A 3-year-old girl named Emma Sterling had vanished from her bedroom during the night. No signs of forced entry. No ransom demands. The child's mother, Catherine Sterling, claimed to have checked on her daughter at midnight and found an empty bed. Catherine called the police at 3 a.m., Victor said, his voice hollow. She was hysterical. Claimed someone must have taken you while she was sleeping. But look at this. He showed me another document. Security footage from our building showed Catherine leaving at 11:47 p.m. with a large suitcase and something wrapped in a blanket. She returned alone at 2:30 a.m. My hands were shaking as I held the police report. Why did they not arrest her? Because she was smart. She had an alibi prepared. Said she went to a 24-hour laundromat because you had had an accident with your bedsheets. The wrapped bundle was supposedly dirty laundry. Victor's jaw tightened. And the suitcase? Extra clothes and blankets for the washing machine. The police believed her because she was pregnant, emotional, and there was no other evidence. He turned to the next page. But 3 days later, she produced a death certificate claiming you had died in a car accident. The certificate looked official. Stamped and signed by what appeared to be legitimate authorities. Emma Sterling. Age 3 years, 11 months. Died October 18, 2001, from injuries sustained in vehicular accident. This is fake. Completely fabricated. But good enough to fool the police and the courts. Victor pulled out more papers. Catherine had connections through her family's law firm. She knew people who could create believable documents for the right price. The next folder contained photographs of me as a child in various foster homes. Someone had been documenting my life. Taking pictures from a distance. Who took these? I asked, disturbed by the surveillance. Catherine. She was keeping tabs on you. Making sure you stayed lost. Victor's voice was bitter. She wanted to make sure I never found you, but she also wanted to watch you suffer. There were dozens of photos spanning 15 years. Me at age 5, looking thin and sad outside a group home. Age 8, in a school playground, always alone. Age 12, working at a gas station that was clearly violating child labor laws. She knew where I was this whole time and never tried to help me. The evidence was overwhelming. But one document made my blood run cold. The house in Connecticut was exactly like the photographs in my baby book. A beautiful colonial with white shutters and a wraparound porch. But what stopped my heart was the backyard. There, under a massive oak tree, stood the swing set from my earliest memory. The one I had thought was just a dream. Victor parked the car and turned to look at me. "Are you ready for this?" I nodded, even though I was not ready at all. How do you prepare to walk into a life you do not remember? How do you enter a house that should feel like home but feels like a museum of someone else's childhood? Victor opened the front door and the smell hit me immediately. Something warm and familiar. Pine cleaner and vanilla candles and something else I could not name. My chest tightened with emotion I did not understand. "This was your playroom," Victor said, opening a door to the left of the entryway. The room was exactly as I had left it 25 years ago. Toys on the shelves. A small table with crayons scattered across it. A rocking horse in the corner that looked well loved. On the wall were drawings in childish handwriting. Emma, written in purple crayon over and over again. "I never changed anything," Victor said quietly. "I kept hoping that someday you would come home and want to play with your toys again." I walked to the small bookshelf and picked up a worn copy of Goodnight Moon. When I opened it, I found an inscription on the inside cover. "To my beautiful Emma on her 3rd birthday. Love always, Daddy." The handwriting was definitely Victor's. I had seen it on the documents in his briefcase. "You used to make me read this to you every single night," he said. "Sometimes twice." I flipped through the pages and suddenly, like a lightning bolt, I remembered. Not the whole memory, but a fragment. Sitting on someone's lap while they read to me in a deep, gentle voice. The same voice that was speaking to me now. "I remember this," I whispered. "Not everything, but I remember someone reading to me. Someone who made me feel safe." Victor's eyes filled with tears. "You called me your book daddy because I was the one who always read your bedtime stories." We walked through the rest of the house. The kitchen where Victor showed me the high chair I used to sit in. The living room with the fireplace where we used to make s'mores on winter nights. My old bedroom with the princess bed and the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. But it was the backyard that brought everything rushing back. The moment I touched the swing, I remembered. Not just fragments this time, but full memories flooding back like a dam had burst. Victor pushing me higher and higher while I screamed with laughter. Catherine watching from the kitchen window with an expression I now recognized as resentment. The morning she told me we were going on a special trip and I would never see Daddy again. "She told me you did not want me anymore," I said, the words tumbling out as the memories returned. "She said you had a new little girl and there was no room for me." I cried for weeks asking when we could come home. Victor's face went white. Emma, I never stopped wanting you. Not for a single day. I would have given up everything I own to bring you home. I know that now, I said. I remember how much you loved me. I remember feeling safe and happy here. She took that away from both of us. Victor sat down on the other swing, the one that had been his when we played together. What else do you remember? The morning I disappeared. She woke me up in the middle of the night and said we had to go help a sick friend. She packed my clothes and told me to be very quiet so we did not wake you. I asked when we were coming home and she said soon. But we never came back. Do you remember anything about the years after? I closed my eyes and let the memories come. Foster homes. So many foster homes. Catherine would visit sometimes, but she never acted like my mother. She would tell people she was a social worker checking on me. She always reminded me that you did not want me and that I should never try to find you. She was monitoring you. Making sure you stayed lost. She told me that if I ever mentioned you to anyone, something terrible would happen to both of us. I was just a little girl. I believed her. Victor stood up and walked over to me. Emma, I need you to know something. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone you should have celebrated here, I celebrated anyway. I lit candles on cakes you were not here to eat. I bought presents that sat unopened in your room. I never gave up hope that someday I would get to give them to you. Show me, I said. Victor led me back to my old bedroom and opened the closet. Inside were 25 years worth of wrapped presents. Dolls and books and jewelry and clothes in sizes from age 4 all the way up to adult. Each one carefully labeled with the year and occasion. Your 18th birthday present, he said, handing me a small wrapped box. Inside was a key and a deed. To a house in my name. A trust fund that had been growing for 25 years. A college fund that could have paid for any school in the world. You were going to give me my own house when I turned 18. I wanted you to have choices. I wanted you to be independent and strong and able to take care of yourself. Even if I never found you, I hoped that someday you would discover these things and know that your father loved you. I sat down on my old bed and looked around the room that should have been mine. At the life that should have been mine. At the father who had never stopped loving me even when the whole world told him I was dead. What happens now? I asked. Victor sat down next to me. Now we have the rest of our lives to make up for lost time. If you want that. I thought about my tiny apartment and my waitressing job and my empty bank account. Then I thought about the man sitting next to me who had spent 25 years hoping his daughter would come home. I want that, I said. I want to try to be your daughter again. You never stopped being my daughter, Emma. Not for a single day. For the first time since this all began, I smiled. A real smile. Because I was finally home. 6 months after our reunion, I was sitting in the offices of Victor's legal team when the detective called with news that changed everything. Catherine had not acted alone. She had been part of a larger network that specialized in stealing children for wealthy clients who could not adopt through legal channels. We found her records, Detective Martinez said over speakerphone. Catherine was paid $2 million to make you disappear. The client specifically requested a blonde girl between ages 3 and 5. My blood went cold. Someone paid her to steal me. Not steal. Purchase. In their twisted minds, this was a business transaction. Catherine gets rid of the child she never wanted anyway, gets rich, and hurts your father all at the same time. Victor's hands were clenched so tightly his knuckles had gone white. Who was the client? A couple in California. Richard and Margaret Whitmore. They had been trying to adopt for years but kept getting rejected because of Richard's criminal background. Catherine promised them a clean child with no family looking for her. But they never got me, I said. I went into foster care. Because Catherine got greedy. She kept the money but decided she could hurt your father more by putting you in the system and watching you suffer. She thought it was poetic justice. The lawyer, David Chen, leaned forward. What charges are we looking at? Child trafficking, kidnapping, fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. And because money crossed state lines, it becomes federal. The Whitmores are already in custody. They kept detailed records of the transaction thinking it was legal. I felt sick. 25 years of wondering why no one wanted me, and the truth was that someone had paid $2 million specifically for me. But Catherine had been too cruel to even let that happen. There is more, Detective Martinez continued. We found evidence of at least 12 other children. Catherine was not a grieving mother who snapped. She was a professional child trafficker who used her divorce as cover for this particular job. 12 other families destroyed, Victor whispered. 12 other children stolen from their parents. David Chen was taking notes rapidly. This gives us grounds for a massive civil suit against Catherine's estate and anyone who helped her. The Whitmores, the lawyer who created fake documents, even the social workers who placed Emma in foster care without properly investigating her background. I do not want money, I said quietly. I want those other families to find their children. Detective Martinez's voice softened. Emma, I need you to know that your case is what broke this whole thing open. Without your locket, without you being brave enough to tell your story, we never would have found the connection. Over the next 3 months, the case exploded into national news. The Connecticut child trafficking ring was featured on every major network. Photos of missing children were broadcast across the country, many of them taken from their beds just like I had been. The first family reunion happened just 2 weeks after the story broke. A little boy named Michael Chen, now 32 and living in Oregon, saw the news coverage and recognized the description of the trafficking network. His parents had been searching for him for 29 years. Then came Sarah Williams, stolen at age 4 and now a teacher in Florida. Then David Gonzalez, taken at age 5 and working as a mechanic in Texas. One by one, the stolen children started coming forward. Each reunion was covered by the media, but Victor made sure our story stayed private. We had found each other. We did not need the world watching us rebuild our relationship. The legal proceedings took over a year. Catherine's estate was ordered to pay $50 million in damages to be split among all the families. The Whitmores received life sentences. The corrupt lawyer and 3 social workers who had been paid to look the other way were sentenced to federal prison. But the real victory was not in the courtroom. It was watching other families experience what Victor and I had experienced. Parents who had mourned their children for decades suddenly getting phone calls that changed everything. You saved them, Victor told me one evening as we watched the sunset from the swing set in our backyard. Yes, our backyard. I had moved back into my childhood home, and we were slowly learning how to be father and daughter again. We saved them, I corrected. If you had not kept looking, if you had not kept those photos in my baby book, if you had not recognized me that night at the restaurant, none of this would have happened. Do you ever think about what your life would have been like if Catherine had never taken you? I considered the question. Sometimes. But I think about it less now. I cannot change the past, but I can help make sure it does not happen to other children. That was why I had started the Emma Sterling Foundation with part of the settlement money. We worked with law enforcement to identify trafficking rings and helped reunite stolen children with their families. We also provided counseling and financial support to families dealing with the trauma of long-term separation. The detective called today, Victor said. They found another child. A girl named Lisa who was taken from Iowa in 2003. She is 24 now and works as a nurse in Seattle. Did they contact her parents? They are flying out tomorrow to meet her. The reunion is scheduled for this weekend. I smiled and pushed myself higher on the swing. After all these years, I still loved the feeling of flying through the air while my father pushed me toward the sky. 13 families back together, I said. Catherine thought she was destroying lives, but in the end, she brought us all home. Justice, Victor said quietly. Finally. Finally, I agreed. And for the first time in 25 years, everything felt exactly as it should be. 1 year after our reunion, I was standing at the podium of the International Conference on Missing Children. In the audience sat families we had helped reunite, law enforcement officers who had worked on trafficking cases, and journalists who had covered our story. But the person I was really speaking to was sitting in the front row. Victor, my father, who had never given up hope that his daughter would come home. "My name is Emma Sterling," I began. 1 year ago, I thought my name was Sarah Mitchell. I thought I was an orphan with no family and no future. I was wrong about all of it. The audience was completely silent. These were people who understood the horror of child trafficking, but they also understood the miracle of recovery. I am here today because my father never stopped looking for me. For 25 years, he searched. He hired investigators. He followed every lead. He never accepted that I was dead, even when everyone told him to move on. I found Victor's face in the crowd. He was crying, but he was also smiling with pride. I am here because one night, while working as a waitress, I dropped a locket that had been with me my entire life. That locket was the key that unlocked 25 years of lies and brought me home. I clicked to the next slide on my presentation. It showed photos of all 13 families who had been reunited through our foundation. These are the other children who came home because we never gave up. Michael Chen, stolen from his bedroom in California at age 3. Found working as a software engineer in Oregon at age 32. Sarah Williams, taken from her backyard in Texas at age 4. Found teaching elementary school in Florida at age 31. Each face told a story of survival and recovery. Each family represented hope that had been restored. But I am not here just to celebrate the children we found. I am here to talk about the hundreds who are still missing. The thousands who are being trafficked right now as we speak. The room grew even more serious. This was why we were all here. Not just to feel good about past victories, but to prevent future tragedies. The Emma Sterling Foundation has developed new technology to track patterns in missing children cases. We work with law enforcement to identify trafficking networks before they can steal more children. We provide support to families who are searching for their missing kids. I clicked to the final slide. It was a photo of me and Victor on the swing set in our backyard, both of us laughing. This is what victory looks like. Not just finding the missing children, but helping them heal. Helping them remember who they were supposed to be before trauma stole their identities. The audience erupted in applause.